Welcome to Monologues by Hassie, where I'm going to be dropping unsolicited brain dumps from the depths of my grey matter. I'll talk about life, money, society, and self-development, plus whatever else lies up there, whilst hopefully not getting cancelled in the process. I brought up the topic of complaining over a few podcasts, and I thought I'd do a very quick discourse on what I think are the two big camps of complaining. And different people fall into different camps and at different times of their lives. The first type of complaining I'm going to talk about is the complaining which I think is instinctual to everyone. It's, we've obviously identified something wrong either with us, with our community, with our workplace, with our society, and we complain, we'll vent, the act of venting will give us an emotional release, which feels good, which is the reason why we're complaining. Maybe other people will listen to us and agree and provide us some sort of validation for why we're complaining. And then, we'll move on with our lives and we'll find ourselves complaining about the same thing over and over again. That is probably camp one. It's a very unproductive form of complaining, right? It's fine to do. I think everyone is entitled to do it. But if we want to kind of raise ourselves and do amazing things, complaining can actually be the seed of tremendous growth in our lives, right? It can change, we can change ourselves, our communities, our workplaces, our societies, if we use complaining productively, right? So complaining is not inherently a negative thing, but it only becomes a positive thing when you stop doing it. If you're complaining about the same thing over and over again, and you've been doing it for many years, then you should probably stop complaining about that thing. Because, you're not really going anywhere. What the productive type of complaining is when you're conscious about what is causing your complaint and you do something to attempt to resolve it, right? When you take actions to make your life easier, so you don't need to complain about it again. A lot of the reasons people complain, for example, if I give some very common reasons that people complain, to me, the complaints that I've heard in my life, it's I don't make enough money, or I get into lots of fights with my partner, right? Or I don't get to spend enough time with my kids or my pets, or, insert whichever person in your life that you're kind of looking to spend time with. And these are very common complaints people have. We could be in camp one, where we just make those complaints, we get a bit of emotional release, we get a bit of validation, and we move on. But if you decide to be in camp two and you decide to be conscious about the root causes of what you're complaining about, you can then take steps to resolve that. If we look at I guess this is the easiest one for me to talk about, but if your complaint is, I don't make enough money, you can complain about that for years and say, oh, my workplace doesn't pay, or they didn't give me an inflationary rise, or there's no progress. You can make that complaint. But if you make it too many times, well, number one, the people who originally gave you validation the first time you complained will probably get sick of you, because you've been complaining about the same thing and you haven't actually made any improvements, or you're not making active improvements. I think what those people would rather hear, and this is like a win-win situation for you and them, right? Because you're making action and they're getting some insight into what you're doing to change, right? You're no longer providing them with negativity, you're providing them with a solution. So if we take the example of if I'm not making enough money, identify why you're not making enough money. Is it the industry you're in? Is it capped? Are there skills that you could acquire to increase your earning potential? If not to your current employer, to a prospective future employer, right? Do you need to update your resume, send your resume out? These are steps that you should be taking instead of complaining, right? So you get to complain 1 or 2 times about an issue. After that, optimally, what you do if you're in camp B is you say, if your complaint originally was, I don't make enough money, well, you can either decide to accept that situation and say, you know what, I love my line of work. I realize I'm at the top of my pay scale, or this is the ceiling for my type of work. And, you've become consciously aware of that, and you've said, okay, but I enjoy my job, therefore I'm not going to worry about it. In which case you stop complaining, right? And you free up a lot of mental energy. Or what you can then do is you can say, okay, well, I am constrained here, but here's how I can change it, and you will go down that track, right? So that is far more productive than simply venting over and over again. I have definitely, in the past, if I look at my most unproductive years of complaining, it's where I complained and didn't do anything. Now, I generally, it's been almost, I hate to say the word, somewhat natural for me that when I complain about something, I will do something about it. But that hasn't always been the case. There have been times where, yes, my complaining has absolutely been unproductive, but I've changed that. So have a think about how you complain, right? Is there anything in your life that you're complaining about and that you've been complaining about for a long time that you could either A, stop complaining about because you become more aware of the situation, or B, can you actually take actions to resolve that complaint? And these, when you take actions to resolve that complaint, it's actually akin to starting a business, right? I work in a startup right now, and not just my startup, but if I look at any business which is successful, what they've done is they've identified some sort of pain point in society, and they've said, well, here's something that people complain about, here's how we're going to solve it. So by shifting yourself into the camp of productive complainers who either stop complaining or do something about what they're complaining about, you're going to free yourself up to do great things in the future, be it in business, community, or even just your personal life. You've just made it through another episode of Monologues by Hassie. It brings me great pleasure to know that you made it to the end. To listen to more episodes, subscribe on your favorite podcast app or visit monologuesbyhassie.com. Thanks for swinging by.